select, like just click a little button that says got it or something like that?
Got it.
Got it. All right, cool. Then I'm going to turn it over to Bree. I'm mostly going to be in the background today. But y'all feel free to tag me in whenever. Yeah, I'll turn it over to Bree to get us started.
Hi, Dr. Taylor. My name is Brianna. I'm co-chair with 482 Forward. Just a little brief summary of what 482 Forward is. We're a youth led organization, and we basically are made up of a bunch of other organizations, so we're a collective. So I'm just gonna let everybody else introduce themselves. So I said I was a co-chair with 482 Forward. I also have went to DPSCD schools, and right now I'm a junior in college at Grand Valley. And then someone else can go next. Introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Bailey. I'm a youth member with 482 Forward. I graduated, but I attended DPS schools in the past. And it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Hey. I hope I'm not too loud. Periel, or Perry, if you cannot pronounce my name. She, her pronouns. I am a current DPSCD student. I attend King High School, and I as well sit on the school board as student body representative. I am a part of 482 Forward Youth Collective, as well as my home organization, Detroit Host Detroit. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Oh, okay, I can go next. My name is Crystal Ramirez. I use she and her pronouns. So I'm currently a college student at the University of Michigan. And also I have like my sister, she's in Detroit Public Schools.
Okay.
My name is Allison. I am an intern here with 482 Forward. I'm here through the University of Michigan Semester in Detroit program, so I also go to the University of Michigan. And I am not from Detroit, but part of my work with 482 is doing research on DPSCD, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to say today.
Okay, nice to meet you as well.
You can go ahead and introduce yourself as well, Dr. Taylor.
All right, my name is Iris Taylor. I'm a native of Detroit. I attended DPSCD schools, graduated from Central High School, and all of my degrees are from Wayne State University, including my doctorate, and I have a fellowship from the Wharton Business School. I am passionate about the city of Detroit and in particular, the children of the city of Detroit. I served on the inaugural DPSCD board, elected in 2016. And during that 4 years, I think we did a lot in terms of starting off with not closing 50 schools when we first started winning our office. In addition to that, we had 4 years of a balanced budget, and we were able to invest in the classroom, in reform, and in improve in reading proficiency and other areas. So much so, we had the largest percentage of improvement in the state of Michigan. I think after the pandemic that there was a lot of challenges for DPSCD, and they're now at a pivotal point where we're learning to live with COVID-19, that we also need to now be sure that we are focusing on absenteeism, that we're focusing on investing in the classroom in particular with reform, with our reform structures, and providing the variety of tentacles of education and excellence. The bottom line is that I believe that every day, every child in every classroom should have an opportunity to thrive and have access to quality public education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. Okay, so first I'm just going to go over some of the rules right now. We're going to go ahead and get into the questions. In a minute, there is a little bit of a time limit on answers for each question, just to make sure that we get every question answered. The time limit is about 3 minutes, I believe, but I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be enough time to get everything in. And yep, just gonna make sure that we all keep everything respectful. And I believe Periel, you're up first. First question.
Okay. Well, you already did this, but please share your name and pronouns for the record. What's your connection to DPSCD and why did you decide to run for school board?
My name is Iris Taylor. My pronouns are she and her. And I am a former board member of DPSCD. I was in office from 2017 to 2020. I am currently the vice chair of DPS Foundation. I am running for board because I am passionate about the children of the city of Detroit. And in particularly, I want to see to it that the reform work and the investment to ensure that every child has an opportunity to thrive is in place. Did I answer all three of your questions?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I had a hard time unmuting. Now I'm going to pass it to Allie.
Sure, thank you. So my question for you now is, how would you engage the community, specifically students and parents, in making decisions with our school outside of school board meetings? So in essence, or in other words, how will you be going above and beyond for our schools?
Well, one of the things that I supported in my former tenure on the board was that we had a student present at the board meeting. And so that's one way to hear a voice and to have a consistent interaction with someone who represents the student population. We've had many different ways of trying to communicate with the community. And I don't think any one of them meets everybody's needs. I think that you have to do a collective. So whether it is creating another council of community volunteers to give us feedback versus the scheduled community engagement meetings that we have in place. We have a community engagement council representative. We have, I think we have to put in place a variety of things for connection in order to ensure that we get the appropriate feedback. As you know, the DPSCD board is a policy board. And so if in order for us to make policy that is representative of the needs as well as the strategic direction of the district, we have to have a variety of ways of which we get engagement.
Thank you. I'll now pass it on to Adeli.
Okay. Hello. We know that the school board has a policy in place about the possession of weapons in schools, but there's an exception to weapons under the control of law enforcement personnel and items approved by the building principal as part of class or presentation. So in light of recent issues regarding gun violence within schools, do you think that the policy should change to not allow any weapons in or around the schools from anyone?
I think that in itself is a challenging question, and it's somewhat situational. I would prefer not to have any guns in schools. But yet I realize for security purposes and safety purposes in some environments that having someone that is armed may be appropriate. But my desire would be in terms of self-governance that we would not have to have armed individuals in the school at all.
Thank you so much for your answer. And just as a follow-up, DPSCD just sent out a robocall stating that they will be investing money to bring police officers back onto school grounds in the start of the fall semester. So do you agree with this decision? And if not, where would you like to see the money instead?
I agree with the decision to the extent that in the city of Detroit, we are currently going through a wave of aggressive activity, violent activity. And we have to ensure at all costs that our students are safe, that they feel confident that they're safe, and so that they can have a healthy opportunity to learn. And if it requires patrolling grounds in a different way so that we can ensure that the environment is safe, then I think that is the appropriate thing for us to do at this time.
Thank you so much for your answer. I'm going to pass it to Crystal, I believe.
Okay, so the following question that we have for you is the state's 2023 budget includes $150 million for mental health within schools. Do you believe that is an appropriate amount? What do you want to see done with those funds in Detroit Public Schools? And right now, the ratio of counselors to students in DPSCD is 1 to 500 in elementary and 1 to 400 in high school. For social workers, it's even worse.
I think in terms of mental health, if we were to compartmentalize the segments of your question, 38% of the students in high school have challenges around mental health issues or instability. And yet we don't, and the amount of suicide that occurs has continued to increase every year. So the amount of support that we're providing for that population of individuals is not adequate. And so I fully support investing in having mental health services available, not just for the individual, but also training opportunities so that counselors as well as students be able to identify, for example, symptoms that may lead to suicide ideation, and be able to identify that and be able to bring that to attention of a counselor or an instructor so that an intervention could occur for that particular student. Feeling comfortable and trusting in the environment that if I see that my best buddy is struggling, that I can bring that to someone's attention if they don't have the ability to bring that to attention for themselves. I really am passionate about creating health hubs for each of the hub districts in DPSCD. There's 12 hubs, but you have physical health, mental health, you have dental, you have social work, and you have a parent advocate or a family advocate. And that these services are available not only for children or the resident or the individual enrolled in DPS, but their siblings, whether they're a member of DPS or not, and whatever adult figure that is in the home for them, that they all have access to these services so that we can try to minimize, if not eradicate, some of the external challenges that children have to deal with before they begin the learning experience.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And I'll pass it on to Bree.
Okay, so in what ways do you think the DPSCD should make school curriculum more diverse and representative of the student body?
Could you expand on what you mean when you say adverse in terms of the desires of the student body or the racial makeup of the student body, the economic racial makeup? What about the student body? So I can be clear.
I would say that all of those kind of play a part in it. But I guess more specifically, the racial makeup is what's kind of confusing at the moment for a lot of students, as well as social identity. So if you could kind of answer to that.
I think that the DPSCD needs to be representative of not only the learning level of the students that are embraced in DPSDC in terms of the population, but also the makeup of the population in terms of what their desires are, the mixture and percentage of their desires. So whether there is a college prep tentacle, and there's one for industry, and there's one for entrepreneurship, whatever the other variety of things that should be supported as options, that we should ongoingly assess the population to ensure that we are providing programmatic decisions that are in line with the desires as well as the overall thrust and movement of where students want to go. Secondly, I think that part of doing a constant review of the universe allows us to then be flexible, not only in the delivery of the didactics, but in the variety of ways that they can be done, whether there is a combination of virtual versus in school, or whether there's a combination of schools that do automatic matriculation into college, or a trade school. I think we ought to create these alternatives in a level of quality way that we, on the basic foundation, we build with variation to be responsive to the needs of the population that we're serving.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Azalea.
What is your stance on the current uniform policy in DPSCD, along with the strict dress codes?
I will acknowledge the fact that I think that uniforms and or requests for a certain kind of unity in dressing brings about another level of discipline, another level of self-control that can be exerted, and accountability and responsibility for the students. So that a dress code does not just, or a uniform code, is just not for the purpose of just saying everybody wear the same thing, but what are some of the messages behind the fact that you're asking them to do that? By the same token, as the students start to mature, I think you can build a framework that says within this framework, here's the contents that we consider to be respectful and appropriate dress, so that the focus in the school is on learning and not on the conversation of what people have on every day when they come.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Perry.
Thank you. DPSCD just voted to acknowledge Pride Month in the school calendar. How will you stress the importance of advocating for LGBTQ plus equity in classrooms?
I think equity across the board is a value that we have to be respectful of. It's a value that we have to demonstrate. It's a value that we have to ensure that our behaviors are representative of. And therefore, inclusion says that if we say that we can be responsible to the entire demographics of the population, that we have to be responsive to the entire demographics of the population.
Okay, so sorry. Oh,
Just, oh,
oh. Sorry, were you gonna say something? I'm so sorry, I didn't cut somebody off. Yeah, okay. So the next question is, how would you increase language accessibility and translation services within DPSCD schools and in communication with families?
I'm not sure, because I'm not part of the school system, or what level they currently are existing in, and I could only refer back to 2 years ago, prior to the pandemic. But if we were to identify what would be an expectation or what should be a policy, is that readily access to interpreters for families, or vehicles for which families could use to communicate on an ongoing basis, ought to be an essential component of the fabric of DPSCD.
Okay, I'll pass it on to Allie.
Thank you. So during the final weeks of classes, Detroit schools had to end their days early. And this was due to the hot weather and having no AC. This is one of many issues students face during the, this is one of the many issues students face due to the condition many DPSCD schools are physically in. And how do you think this issue can be addressed by the school board?
Well, let me background with the foundation. When DPSCD was created, it is funded by the state as opposed to a part of the base funding being a part of the residential taxes. But rather those residential taxes go to retire the debt of the former DPS. Having said that, that allocation did not include anything for infrastructure. So there were no dollars allocated for brick and mortar or for any investment for the future. Fortunately, one of the upsides of COVID-19 where the dollars were reinvested back into the community. So DPSCD has an opportunity to have dollars that can be encumbered for structural improvement of old buildings that can sustain improvement, and demolishing and building replacement buildings and other cases, so that their plan moving forward would include a little bit of both.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Peria.
I am so sorry. I'm having a hard time unmuting. Excuse me. I am also a member of an organization called My Students Dream, which organized at the intersection of immigration and education justice. Would you commit to filling out a survey created by our youth members? We will send it to you within a week.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Bree.
Thank you so much for all your answers today, Dr. Taylor. We really appreciate you meeting with us. The last question I want to ask you is, if you were elected, would you commit to meeting with our youth again within 6 months of your election?
Of course.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to working with you in the future. Was there anything else that you maybe wanted to mention or hope that we touched on with you?
I just want to conclude by saying that I am passionate about the welfare and the future for the children of the city of Detroit. And it is in that regard is the reason that I am running for school board, because I truly believe that every child in the city of Detroit, every day and in every classroom, has a right to have a healthy opportunity to thrive and to have an opportunity to access quality public education. And I think that needs to be our focus.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Taylor.
Yes, thank you. Any questions for us?
So tell me, what are you looking for in a school board member?
Who wants to share?
Well, we definitely love to see members who are open to listening to the public as well as the youth, because we know a lot of times our voices aren't as heard or made as strongly put out as the adults are in the school system. So we do love that you were even able to come on here and speak with us and answer the questions that we wanted to know from you. So that is definitely something that we are looking for in a school board candidate.
How has your experience been as a representative on the board?
For Periel. Dr. Taylor, you're talking about for Periel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Perio.
Y'all, I'm here. I'm sorry. I told y'all, I can't unmute fast enough. It's freezing and stuff like that. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool beans and chicken wings. My experience sitting on the board has definitely been an experience. I wouldn't say like, oh, it's amazing because as student body representative, we're not doing a whole lot. I feel as if we're on a board just to be like, oh, we're listening to the youth, we're listening to students, and then that's just an excuse for them to be like, yeah, we listened to them, they told us this, and boom, that justifies that. So yeah, as of yesterday, I did get a little heat back from participants and parents that were attending the board meeting. I kind of sort of called them out on them being disrespectful towards the board members and everybody else who was listening and as well as participating in that meeting. And I received a lot of backlash from that.
Of course, you call them disrespectful.
Yes, they
Were they-
got
were they-
really upset
Were
because
they disrespectful?
yes, in my
Okay.
opinion, I believe that they were, which is why I asked if I could say a little bit at the board meeting, because what I witnessed is should never happen again at a board meeting, especially if you're supposed to be advocating for your children or whatever you have to say. You should not be acting that way, no matter how you feel towards the person. So, other than that, it's definitely been an experience. I've been on a trip or so as student body representative, and I've been in a nice amount of spaces where I've been able to advocate a little bit. So, yeah,
What would you like to see differently?
more engagement. I know this was like our first DPSCD first time doing this, and I was the alternate, but I was showing up to all meetings and trainings. And then we had two other student body reps who wasn't as active because they were graduating. That was their senior year. So it wasn't like our schedules was really busy, but I would like to see more communication between DPSCD school board members and student body representatives, just so that we could feel like we were actually being 100% heard instead of just on the board, just to be like, yeah, we're listening to students and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, I see. All right, that's good to know. It's good to know. And have you had an opportunity to evaluate? I shouldn't be asking so many questions on this line, but this was one of the things that I was committed to doing before I left and we didn't get done. So I'm just sort of interested. That's why I'm so interested in how it is you have actually perceived the experience. But thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's all the
Thank you.
questions I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We've got just, I think, 4 more interviews with candidates, and then we're going to be starting to publicize them all on our website and on our social media and stuff like that. So we're going to kind of break it up by question. And so we'll see what all the candidates have to say about this question, what all the candidates have to say about this question. And then the full interviews will be available on our website too. So everyone can see those as well. And we're going to be getting those out. And we've got our candidate forum on October 20th. I believe you should have received an invitation for that from Arlisa Hurd, probably.
I didn't recall seeing it. You know, seeing though I'm having some trouble getting emails from 482Youth.
Yeah, do you want me to try, but you got this one through your Gmail. Do you want me to try sending that invitation to your Gmail?
Yes, that would be great, because that did not go to spam. It went directly into the email.
Okay. All right, I'll do that here in just a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.